February 8th, 2022 board meeting is now in order. I'm happy to welcome my fellow board members and the public. This is a business meeting of the board held in the public. As such, the board is authorized to adopt rules or policies to maintain orderly conduct and proper decorum in a public meeting. Please note that your presence here is subject to those rules and policies. Pursuant to Florida Statute 877.13, it is unlawful and a misdemeanor of the second degree, punishable by up to 60 days in jail and a $500 fine for any person knowingly to disrupt or interfere with the lawful administration or functions of any educational institution or school board, or knowingly to advise, counsel, or instruct any school pupil or school employee to disrupt any school or school board function or activity on school board property. To facilitate board business, please be aware of the following. If you must leave the building for any reason, you will not be permitted to re-enter. The appropriate place for public participation in the meeting is during your individual public comment opportunity as identified in the agenda. Outside of your individual public comment opportunity, your role in the meeting is as an observer. I'll ask persons deemed to be knowingly or intentionally disrupting this meeting of the School Board of Brevard County or not complying with this policy to stop or leave. If persons receiving the warning choose not to follow my instructions, I will instruct Brevard County Sheriff's deputies to take any law enforcement action they deem appropriate, and you may be escorted, detained, or arrested depending on the conduct. Persons who refuse to depart after a warning may also be committing the crime of trespassing, in accordance with Florida Statute Section 810.05. These statutes apply to conduct on all school board property, which includes this boardroom, as well as the outside of this building to the sidewalk. If you continue to cause a disruption, you are advised that you are in violation of Florida Statute 877.13, or if you fail to leave the premises after being warned by the Sheriff's Office, you are committing trespass, and the board has authorized the Sheriff's Office to enforce these rules. In the event multiple individuals fail to adhere to these expectations and board business cannot continue due to disruption, I'll call a recess and request that the law enforcement officers present clear the boardroom of attendees. When the room is cleared, the board will return and resume their meeting with no public present. Those who are signed up to speak will be seated under the front entry area and called in when it's your time to speak. Paul, roll call, please.
Miss Belford?
Present.
Miss McDougall?
Present.
Mr. Susan?
Present.
Miss Jenkins?
Present.
Miss Campbell?
Present. The board will now hold a moment of silent reflection in memory of a BPS family member, Jenny Torin, who recently passed away. Ms. Torin was the certified school counselor at Oak Park Elementary. Thank you. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I would like to offer my fellow board members and Dr. Mullins an opportunity to recognize students, staff, or members of the community who'd like to start us off this evening. Ms. Jenkins?
I'm in a weird spot here today. I'm probably stealing the thunder from some other people. I apologize, but I just want to say congratulations to our Employee of the Year from Ocean Breeze Elementary, Officer Jen, and of course our Teacher of the Year from Andrew Jackson Middle and Alexandria Wicker. And I had written down, hold on one second. We had a quote that I really, really liked. And now I can't find it. Well, there we go. I wasn't born to just teach. I was born to inspire others to do what's impossible. I really, really appreciated her speech when she was accepting her award. She's an amazing, amazing teacher, and I'm really, really happy for her. And I'm excited to see how far she goes to support Brevard at the state level. I also just want to do a shout out to Melbourne High School's Chamber Choir. They were also at the ABC Awards, and not only did they have an amazing performance, but I felt like the song that they chose was just kind of spoke to me, and I feel like it spoke to everybody in the room. The room was dead silent for the entire performance. And so I just kind of want to quote one of the parts of the lyrics, and it said, We shall love one another with all of our hearts, and we shall care for each other with all of our soul and might. When we stand, when we fall, when we rise, we are one. And it just had a special place for me, and I feel like it spoke to everybody in that room that night. So thank you so much for that beautiful performance, and I hope to hear you guys again soon.
Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Ms. Campbell, looks like you're ready.
And I've got a lot. On the topic of music, we had our all-county concerts a couple weekends ago, and they were fabulous. So good to have everybody. I think everybody was in agreement that it was good to be back together performing in front of a live audience, and I'm very proud of all of our students for the great work they did. Saturday was the Space Coast Odyssey of the Mind tournament, and we have, am I stealing? All right. I got to go to just the awards part. I did miss all the fun of the day, but people stuck around for the cold awards ceremony, and we have just a bunch of teams like going to state, so we're really proud of them. 25 teams going to the state tournament, so that's really, really exciting. And if you've got more details, Dr. Mullins, please fill us in. I wanted to thank the members of our legislative delegation who met with me for FSBA Day in the legislature when I went to represent us. I met with Senator Mayfield, Representative Soroy, Representative Altman, and then Senator Wright had one of his aides who had time to meet with me. So I just want to thank them for that last Thursday. And then I wanted to recognize our still new because it's less than a year, Director of Employee Benefits and Risk Management, Antonia Scipio, because of the great work that I have observed her doing. Now, I get to see it more closely on SIAC, but you guys get the emails. She's doing such a fantastic job as we're trying to shift the mindset of our benefits to not just healthcare, but wellness. And I'm really excited about that, the new initiatives that are coming up. Including the 300-mile challenge, which I believe everybody but Mr. Susan officially has agreed to do, started last Friday. Count your steps. And I think the next board meeting, I'm going to have Tammy help me make a leaderboard so we know which school board member, and Dr. Mullins, and Paul, you're welcome to join us, have walked the most miles over the 12 weeks. So we want all of our employees to jump in. It's not too late to jump in. You can officially sign up, but we We want to set the good example in our wellness initiatives of being
how we're trying to do that. So I wanted to say thank you to Dr. Mullins. He actually opened it up for the rest of the county. So they're going to go for the next couple of months to every single high school is going to show off all of their trades. And that's going to be absolutely amazing. So I'm looking forward to, I mean, I don't even know what's going to happen next. We got a race car team. We got all this stuff happening. Next thing, I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be neat. Oh, they're bringing the race car to O'Galley High School. Problem is they put the one race car into the wall yesterday after we left. So they've got to take that back and fix it, but they're taking a couple other race cars that they have. It's going to be a fun thing. So anyways, and then we have some of our transportation and bus drivers here tonight. Thank you for coming. I put on what we had discussed earlier. I put on the agenda to discuss later. It's part of our board discussion, so thank you for coming. And thank you for everybody else that's here tonight for what you guys do and what you're about to do with Mr. Kershaw and be pinned. Thank you. That's it.
Google.
First, I want to give a shout out to the Brevard Symphony Orchestra, who hosted the fifth graders in our district, and what a wonderful program they provided for our students. I think we've been there before. It's always wonderful. And the students are so wonderful. There was a part where they could shout out, I think, La Bamba, and they did a great job. So thank you again to Brevard Symphony Orchestra for hosting our fifth graders. Also, I want to give a shout out to our science teachers and our students who I was able to go to Merritt Island Mall, and I hope some of you were able to pop in there over the weekend and see some of our students and their science projects. They were phenomenal. I talked to kids from Delora, Satellite, Hoover, Edgewood, and Heritage. Those are some of the students I talked to. They are all different schools. They were all very professional, and can I tell you that I think we're going to be in good hands. There was one student who, he's a senior, and I can't remember what school, but he decided that he wanted to find a way to discover ovarian cancer before it gets to stage 4. I mean, it was pretty amazing what he did. And then another young lady talked about the red tide and how she wanted to develop something, what she was working on, to reduce red tide when it happens. So we have some amazing students and amazing science teachers. So I want to give a shout out to those students and teachers. I also want to give a shout out to a group of people who are oftentimes overlooked and are very important, to our custodial service team. This has been a couple years of intense cleaning, and sometimes we have had challenges to fill our positions. We have custodians working at 2 schools. We have, managers and supervisors and specialists filling in at different schools. We have ground technicians helping with custodial duties at our schools. Our high schools who may have more than one custodian, they go to another school. So I just want to talk about the flexibility, not only of our custodial staff, but some of our teachers and administrators who have stepped up to the plate to help keep our schools and our students safe and clean. I also wanted to give a shout out to Ms. Clark at McNair, who was the lead along with some of her other teachers on Pioneer Days. I don't know if anybody's ever been to Pioneer Days, but it's pretty phenomenal. It's really like you're back in time going out west in a covered wagon, and the different activities that the students do. And we had a cholera area, we had making bread, we had making butter, we had people that had babies, and what did they do when the baby cries? It's really a 5-pound sack of flour. And what do they do when they're in the wagon train? This little thing. It was very well done and very well put together, and I thought, man, you had some grit. And last but not least is I want to give a shout out to Edgewood students who I never heard of this before, but it's the Future Health Professional Regional Competition. And this team and students brought home 4 first place and 3 second places trophies in both individual and team events. And you'll say, okay, what is this organization? It is a international career and technical organization that has future health professionals, and it's throughout the United States, and they have it over in Europe and in Asia also. So a shout out to the science teachers and to the students at Edgewood for bringing home some first and second place. And I think that's all I have.
Dr. Mullen?
Thank you. Just to piggyback on the science research, the shout outs and thank yous. It was a great award ceremony Saturday night, like Ms. McDougall shared. I do also want to, the projects are phenomenal. I can't even pronounce half the words that are on the science fair boards. But there's a part of our community I want to acknowledge along with you, Ms. McDougall, and that is our community partners. Our business partners across this great community absolutely rally, from L3 Harris to Northrop Grumman, but also individuals across the health arena, Health First, and all of our partners. It is amazing that our students have the mentorship and the partners to help them see those projects to fruition and have that experience. So thank you to our amazing community for filling a gap for our kids that helps them absolutely receive an exceptional science research experience. We talk about annually the Infinite Scholars Program. Mrs. Belford, you may have been wanting to highlight. Should I leave it for you?
No, go ahead.
Again, a shout out to Dr. Michael Cador, Assistant Provost, Eastern Florida State College, Rockledge City Council member, but most closely an absolute champion for kids and education in Brevard Public Schools. He helped launch the Infinite Scholars Program about 5 or 6 years ago, and every year it has grown. This year we had over 700 students registered to attend in person at Rockledge High School. Over 1,000 scholarships were awarded, totaling over $18.5 million. Our kids walked away with scholarships that night. So just another exemplary testimonial of our community providing exceptional opportunities for our kids. So thank you, Mike, if you're out there listening, but congratulations to our kids who walked away with not only hopes of college, but realities of college. Amazing. And then I also want to highlight our 6 students, that's the most we've ever sent in some time, to the Orlando Regional Spelling Bee. And they will be competing among the top 50 students from across Central Florida. So Brevard is sending 5 of our kiddos, and they are Misri Shah from Imperial Estates, Tushwa Batakara from Edgewood Junior Senior High. I'm sorry if I didn't get your name right. Kalia Fox from Challenger 7 Elementary, Addison Jones from Lewis Carroll Elementary, Gabriel Ponton from Quest, and Jasmine Harris from University Park Elementary Schools. We wish you well, spell on, and bring home the trophy to Brevard.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins. I have a few as well. It seems like it's been a really busy, what has it been 3 weeks since our last meeting, I think? But tons of stuff going on. So one, I want to thank Representative Soroy, who every year puts together Brevard Day in Tallahassee. Mr. Brune and I were able to go up for Brevard Day, I think it's been 2 weeks ago now, and participate, and several of our chamber people were up there as well on that day. Great programming and good camaraderie, and just being able to be in the Capitol and talk and share Brevard stories. Mr. Brune did a great job, had a table set up with lots of good information. And I don't know, this shout out is kind of for him too, because we know that Mr. Brune has been a rock star for us. I don't know if you all are aware, but the school profiles that all of our schools put together, Mr. Brune has put together a book of every one of our schools' profiles, and it is the coolest thing ever to look through it. So sorry, Mr. Brune, if I'm getting ahead of you, but I just couldn't hold back my excitement on that one, because I think it's so awesome to look through and see all the great things going on at our schools. So I'm sure you guys will be getting copies of those soon as well. Also, I'm pretty sure it was been since the last meeting, Dr. Mullins and I had the opportunity to attend the Space Coast Junior Senior Space Force transition ceremony. where their ROTC program is transitioning from an Air Force ROTC to one of 10 Space Force units in the entire country. And was so incredibly cool, so well put together. Our kids just have an incredible opportunity in front of them. And to top it off, we had a rocket launch right at the end of the ceremony. So it was like just perfection. So congratulations to them, and thank to the Space Force for the opportunities for our kiddos. Also had the opportunity to attend the Employee of the Year ceremony last week, I think it was, which was a great recognition of our Employees of the Year throughout the district. And so many congratulations to them, and also thanks to the foundation for putting together the opportunity for the recognition, and all the folks that made that possible. And then the very next day, I got to attend the Teacher of the Year Summit, which is put on by our TLC, which was phenomenal. So they brought together all of our Teachers of the Year from the entire district, and they spent a day together. And I have to tell you, the energy in that room was absolutely amazing. The State Teacher of the Year from last year came and spoke. They had lots of activities going on. It was awesome collaboration, and just I guess re-energizing each other, and just really a phenomenal experience. So thank you for all of your work in making that possible. And then of course we had the ABC Awards the night after that, which was Ms. Jenkins mentioned, which was wonderful recognition of our Teachers of the Year. So it's been really an exciting few weeks, and all of the great stuff. You have one more, or you want Dr. Mullins has one more he needs to throw in
Well,
there?
I was reminded, we can't pass up the opportunity to recognize a group that goes to compete nationally and brings home the second place trophy. And that was our Marine Corps Junior ROTC from Palm Bay Magnet Senior High School. The rifle team went and competed nationally and came home runner-up in that competition in the country.
Awesome.
Thank you, Mrs. Belford.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Mullins, for making sure we cover that. And thanks to all that have created all the great opportunities to really showcase the amazingness in Brevard. It's been a great couple of weeks. All right, we are now going to move into our adoption of the agenda. Dr. Mullins.
Mrs. Belford and members of the board, on this evening's agenda, we have administrative staff recommendations, 1 presentation, 19 consent items, and 21 action items. Changes made to the agenda since it was released to the public are as follows. Revisions were made to items F7, administrative staff recommendations, F11, student expulsions, F13, instructional staff recommendations, F14, support staff recommendations, F20, Jupiter Elementary School, construction management services, F22, Riviera Elementary School, construction management services, and G31, procurement solicitations. There were also 2 board member discussion points added, items J52, Melbourne High School renaming update, and J53, transportation and bus driver collaboration.
I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion?
Voice voting.
We are voice voting. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins, will you please let us know about the administrative staff recommendations?
Madam Chair, members of the board, there are 6 items for your consideration, which includes 1 resignation, 1 retirement, and 4 transfers.
Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please vote. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
I would like to take this opportunity to recognize a wonderful former colleague and wonderful administrator dedicated to our kids, Miss Lena Cook. I'm not sure if she is here this evening. Lena, are you here? No. She is retiring from the position of assistant principal at Jefferson Middle School. Lena, if you're out there in TV land, congratulations on your retirement. We truly and sincerely appreciate your many, many years of service to the students of Brevard, and then also mentoring up teachers and mentoring up other administrators as you have served so valiantly across our district. So congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins, and congratulations, Lena. Dr. Mullins, if you will please let us know about the presentation on tonight's agenda, although I have to say that I got a preview the other day when I was at the summit, and I am so excited about this presentation. I think you guys will be too. So, Dr. Mullins.
Yes, very exciting to share Miss Janice Kershaw, President and CEO of our Brevard Schools Foundation, will lead tonight's presentation on the new Teacher Leadership Council Fellowship Program in year two. You're probably going to cover this. Year two? This is our first year? So, Mrs. Kershaw and team.
Well, good evening, board members and Dr. Mullins. We're just here to give you something else to brag about. We're here tonight to introduce to you the new TLC Fellowship Program, an initiative of Brevard Schools Foundation, and our initial cohort of fellows who we'll introduce to you in a few minutes. First, you may be wondering why Brevard Schools Foundation would initiate such a program. Well, education foundations are not only known for helping fill educational funding gaps, but for serving as a proving ground for innovative programs. In fact, in Florida, our education foundations receive encouragement from the School District Education Foundation Matching Grant Program that allows us to use the power of public-private investment to shape and address issues around priority areas, one of them being teaching quality. And our private partner in this particular project is Truist. So this pilot program started with a question or a wondering. I wondered how Brevard Schools Foundation could better support the development of teacher leaders that ultimately leads to better results in teaching and learning. And what I learned in my exploration was that action research could bring respect, motivation, and improved academic results to those who practice it, providing a lever for teacher leadership. What's more, it could serve as a strong retention tool as well. So when I first brought this idea to Dr. Mullins last year, it was under a working title, Sharing the Art of Teaching Action Research by Teachers. Now, while the concept is the same, after some collaboration with my peers at the Jacksonville Public Education Fund, we decided that the word fellowship would be more recognizable as a prestigious opportunity, commonly referred to as a monetary award given to a scholar to pay for his or her academic pursuit. And all the teachers in our program are receiving an honorarium as well as the group leads. The Teacher Leadership Council would help develop and house the fellowship program, thus the name TLC Fellowship Program. One of Brevard Public Schools' unique attributes is its Teacher Leadership Council, which has gained recognition around our state. 7 years ago, former Teachers of the Year, Christina Donahue and Dr. Lucy Haddock, who are here tonight, gave birth to the council, and the fellowship program provided a logical next step in its growth. In practice, the TLC not only concerns itself with developing high-performing teacher leaders, but in making the retention of high-performing teachers a priority. Research has shown that for one high-performing teacher that leaves, it takes 11 new hires to replace them. Giving teachers something important to do, like academic research, is one low-cost retention strategy. In the past, TLC has participated in facilitating new teacher meetups, wellness programs, and peers in public practice, professional development, not to mention the teacher-led summits and roundtables, to name just a few examples of its work. We're hoping one day that funding will allow us to develop a teacher leadership center here in Brevard. Now, I'm proud to introduce the TLC group leads, Danielle Lavelle and Dottie Arier, to take you through the next step in the development of this program, which also happens to be the next step in the inquiry process.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kershaw. Before we really dive into it, on behalf of the TLC Fellowship, we would just like to thank the TLC and Ms. Janice Kershaw for really putting together this unique opportunity, not only for myself and Ms. Dottie, but for also the teachers within BPS. So my name is Danielle Lavelle. I am currently the TOA at University Park Elementary School. And I have with me Ms. Dottie Arier, who is the GSP teacher at John F. Kennedy. When this idea was presented to us, we were chomping at the bits to get it started. And one of the reasons being is as a teacher leader, you're always wanting something more. Not just another task that you have to check off, but another way to reach out, to effect, and to collaborate with peers.
So once the teacher fellowship kind of came together, and as you know, this is our pilot year, so we are very much learning about the inquiry process, which I've been told, Dr. Mullins, so are you. Am I correct in this? So we began with seeing really what type of group of teachers we needed to pull in. And our initial thought was the Teacher of the Year cohort. They've already been elected and selected by their peers as being teacher leaders, so they were our obvious initial choice to kind of bring in and send application to. So now that we've kind of gotten the logistics and terms, we're going to move on to explain what the inquiry process is and how it ties into the fellowship program. Our fellows are to complete an inquiry. The current inquiries that we are doing are based on a collaborative effort, as this is our pilot program, so we're very much learning about action and research as we're continuing on. I'm going to pass it to Ms. Dottie so that she can explain to you more further in detail the different components of action research and how it ties into the inquiry process. So as Ms. Janice Kershaw said, her whole thought started with this wondering, and as you see, that is the initial step to inquiry.
Right, so we begin the whole process with wondering. As teachers, we're always wondering what better to provide more for our students, to make our teaching and our practice even better. So we established our group, secondary and elementary, and we collaborated to figure out what our wonderings were, which moves into our collaboration and exploration. That's the research. That's us as leads preparing whatever we need to for our fellows and providing them with the adequate amounts of research that will support their wonderings, which then will lead us into that data. As teachers, we love looking at data. That is something that I, as a teacher, pride myself on, because we always want to grow professionally and within our practice. So when we're collaborating and looking for more resources, we're also looking at how it's going to impact our practice. At the end, we're reflecting and continuing. So our wonderings at first may start with one simple wondering, but through this process of inquiry, it's actually going to grow into new wonderings. So it's a continuous cycle that we can learn and grow more from and broaden our professional practice.
Thank you so much. So as stated, we have two separate groups that have initiated this pilot program. We decided to separate the fellows into a primary, or elementary I should say, and a secondary group. The reason being is because we really wanted to ensure and hone in on the populations of those schools and recognize that even though we are serving in a whole county, the needs of elementary are going to differ greatly for the needs of secondary. So in terms of leading the process, we thought, okay, what are current things, current events, current ideas, current keywords that we've been hearing over the last couple of years to help drive that initial wondering? So we took a survey, and one of the different topics was trauma-informed teaching, which does that sound familiar to you, Dr. Mullins? Yes. So trauma-informed teaching was the concept that we had originally selected. Some of the other ones were social emotional learning, just to kind of name a couple. And within trauma-informed, we began thinking, okay, with trauma-informed teaching, what type of strategies, what type of skill sets could we then put into play that could benefit not only the academic side, but also the behavior side? Because as educators, we know that if we do not have solidified social emotional learning, we have no academics that are going to be able to take place. So the elementary group decided on the effects of small group lesson introduction based on student trauma index and risk factors. The elementary team created a ACEs, which for those of you who are not familiar, ACEs is basically a trauma index that we provide to get an understanding of how much trauma an individual has experienced within their lifetime, and it's geared towards childhood. So we created our own trauma index that also included specifics on risk factors for academics. This includes behavior such as discipline referrals, how many times a child is called for assistance, tardies, and attendance. So based on their trauma index on what we had created, we have populated a group of students who have a higher level of trauma in compared to their peers. This group of small group of students will then be given a small group lesson prior to an introductory whole group. The reason why we're doing this is because as educators, when you think of small group, it's always done as a remedial factor. You put small group to fill in the gap. However, what we've learned through our research with trauma-informed teaching is that students who have higher levels of trauma do not transition well. And we think of transitions just being scheduling, going from one activity to the next, whether it be lunch or PE, recess, or even just arrival and dismissal. But what we were wanting to find is that when we think of students making those transitions, that very much ties into when we're transferring from one key concept to another. And how much emphasis do we really give on providing those students with not only the additional background knowledge, but a sense of awareness so that they feel confident and comfortable to dive into a new standard. So the small group lesson introduction to those students who have a higher level of trauma, to ease them into the skill set, let them collaborate in a small group level, and then we're also including a restorative practice within that small group. Our focus is only on ELA. Reason being is just because time. We're always trying to find enough time in the day. But what we're really looking at is finding how this will build their confidence, how it will let them see that, it's not just about filling those gaps, but it's also about getting them prepared. I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to Ms. Dottie so that she can explain the secondary inquiry.
For the secondary, we're a different school setting with class changes and periods throughout the day, and my fellows are all different subject teachers. So we kind of wanted to do a more broader base, especially with the age group that we're working with. So our project is the impact of relationship building on engagement within a trauma-informed classroom. So we're still having those factors of making the students feel comfortable and building those relationships in order for the engagement and the academics to occur. So we're realizing the trauma is playing in all kids' lives in very different ways. When you hear where my fellows are working at, their schools vary just by saying that. Their schools are very different, and their students experience different traumas. So therefore, we wanted to make sure that we could do this collaboratively, but we obviously recognize the differences that they might be facing. So we wanted to make sure that we focus on just good relationship building strategies and how those impact the academic.
Thank you so much. And before we really begin off, I just wanted to also point out that even though we've come from varying schools, trauma has affected everybody. And due to the pandemic, we no longer get to sit back and deal with that reality that trauma is just affecting certain pockets or populations within Brevard. Trauma has affected everyone. During our research that we conducted, something that really stuck out to me was that 2/3 of children will experience trauma by the age of 16. 2/3. And when you think of that, it's pointing out that we need to be doing something. And that's what that action research is saying. I'm taking action, I'm doing the research, and it's that ownership piece that I feel as educators we really strive for. So now we get to the fun part. We're going to go ahead and introduce to you all the 2021 to 2022 fellowship cohort. Prior to beginning our pinning, I'm going to ask that the principals and our TLC council, who is representing us today, to please step forward. Can I have our fellowship stand up as well? Our first fellowship is Alexandra Stewart. She is a current Spanish AP teacher at West Shore Junior and Senior High School. Our next fellowship member is Jennifer Laham. She is the Teacher Academy Coordinator at Bayside High School.
Next, we have Alex Wicker, our 7th grade science teacher at Jackson Middle School and our BPS Teacher of the Year as well. And last, we have Mickey Corvo, literacy coach at Endeavor Elementary.
Thank you. I would also like to just thank our principals and administration who have not only recommended the fellows that are part of this year's cohort, but also for just lending your classrooms and for granting these teachers the initiative to become teacher leaders and develop their practice and skills. So thank you, and I would just like to take that moment to recognize the administrators present this evening as well. All right, so that wraps us up. I just wanted to let the board know, continuing on with our second year, we have applications that are going to be sent out not only to the current Teacher of the Year cohort, but we're also looking to expand and reach out to the Teacher Leadership Academy that is also taking place. Our hope is that the fellows that you see here that are being penned will go on next year to become fellowship leads like myself and Miss Dottie, and so that we can not only encourage teacher leadership, encourage collaboration, but also assist educators in taking on that ownership of their professional development. I thank you all for your time, and I thank the TLC and the Brevard Federation for granting us this opportunity tonight.
Can I just add one more thing? These teachers will also have a chance to present their findings at the teacher conference that is held in April this year. This is Dr. Lucy Haddock and Christine Donahue who started the TLC, and they're integral in planning that and in owning this fellowship program in the future. So thanks again.
All right. Thank you so much to all of you for your commitment to the fellowship program. And I can just tell you based off what I saw when I was with you, I'm expecting phenomenal things. So not that we want to set the bar too high, but just know that, it's very obvious that you all are dedicated and committed and energized, and it's just super exciting. So thank you. We appreciate it. All right. We are now going to be moving in the public comment portion of the meeting on our agenda items specifically. We actually have 8 people signed up for agenda items, but 4 of them are on discussion items. So those 4 will be taken on the non-agenda items, which leaves us with 4 speakers on agenda items. Oh, for the TLC?
This speaking,
We have 4. Yeah, I mean, y'all are welcome to leave if you don't want to stay for the entire meeting. Don't feel like we're kicking you out, though. We love to see your smiling faces, but you are welcome to go if you'd like. Don't feel like you have to stay. Okay, so we have 4 speakers on the agenda. As such, all speakers will receive 3 minutes. Please note that the time is per speaker, not per agenda item. Topics not specific to agenda items will be moved to the non-agenda portion of the meeting. We have a clock in front of me to help you keep track of your time. When your time is over, you will be asked to stop and allow the next speaker his or her turn. Always keep in mind that reasonable decorum is expected and your statement should be directed to the board chair. The chair may interrupt, warn, or terminate a participant's statement when time is up. It's personally directed, abusive, obscene, or irrelevant. Should an individual not observe proper etiquette, the chair may request the individual to leave the meeting. I'm just going to call the first 4 speakers, and if you all would gather on the east wall so that we can move through everyone quickly. So we have Katie Delaney, followed by Anthony Colucci, then Sarah Mursky, and Carrie Piquet. Katie?
Thank you. Tonight I am here to speak on agenda items F28 and G31. But before I do that, I wanted to thank the member of the board and Dr. Mullen's staff for getting back to me with some questions that we had regarding this agenda. So I just wanted to thank you for that. To start off with G31, it's about the procurement for motor vehicles. Based on the answers that we got back today from Ms. Moore, a lot of our questions got answered. But what I would ask the board is that in the future, if we could possibly have a little bit more transparency in the specifics of where the funds are going, how much money is being spent, and like what positions require a district vehicle, and just to have some more transparency and accountability as you all spend our money. The second item is F28, which is the large contract for outside counsel, which we already pay for 2 wonderful lawyers that the board uses. I am wondering why we need a contract for 3 years with Tallahassee lawyers that cost $250 an hour per attorney, excluding travel. So they get paid $250 an hour for their travel here, and then they get $250 an hour to advise you all when we're already paying for 2 lawyers. And then I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, the paralegals are getting paid $200 an hour, and the assistants are getting paid, this number I can't remember exactly, it's either $80 or $100 an hour for the support staff. So I'm asking why we need these people, and how is this, taking care of our funds, where we could be spending the money on hiring more, bus drivers. I bet a bunch of bus drivers are in here wondering why we have expensive Tallahassee lawyers when we can't give them raises. So, thank you.
Anthony Colucci?
My name is Anthony Colucci. I'm the president of the Brevard Federation of Teachers. On tonight's agenda, there are a total of 44 resignations or retirements. There are 32 appointments. That is a net loss of 12 teachers. While it's important to take the 30,000-foot view, sometimes it's important to take the ground level view. For instance, I want to point out that if these 12 teachers were at a small elementary school, that would be like losing every first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and sixth grade teacher at the school. Please let that sink in for a moment. This is a real issue and one that snowballs. Because we are losing teachers, other teachers are required to provide coverage or have ballooning class sizes. Without a doubt, this intensifies the stress of an already difficult job. And some of these overworked teachers will leave, causing this snowball to grow larger. Now, before I hear that this is not only a Brevard problem, but an everywhere problem, I will remind you that you are the Brevard Public Schools Board, and you have the authority to make changes here. For starters, I strongly suggest that you survey your teachers and find out their opinions on what's going on. This is especially true of our teachers who are leaving. The district needs to know more than it's currently gathering as to why teachers are leaving than is listed on the agenda. Do the classifications, personal, other employment, and relocation really help BPS chart a course to improve retention? Based on other surveys, we can make some assumptions about our teachers. The National Education Association recently surveyed members and found that 90% of members stated that burnout is a very serious or somewhat serious issue. They found that 55% of members stated they were more likely to leave or retire sooner than planned because of the pandemic. 74% of members had to fill in for colleagues or take other duties at their school. Top 3 ways members suggested to address educator burnout were raise salaries, hire more teachers, and hire more support staff. Let that sink in as well, because we all know that Brevard is going in the wrong direction on all 3 of those suggestions. Recently, it's become extremely clear to me as why our teachers are leaving. They get into education to make a difference. Their goal is to positively impact children. But as each day as they struggle with a lack of staff, unrelenting and ever-growing expectations, and the most challenging behaviors we've ever seen, they're going home at night feeling unsuccessful and defeated. They're leaving because they do not believe they're making a positive difference. This is what these teachers need to be told, and I wish you'd all join me in this. Teachers, your best is good enough. You've been face-to-face with students throughout this pandemic. We appreciate you, and you should go home proud each night of the work you're doing with your students. Your service to our community is honorable and valued. Thank you for sticking with BPS.
Thank you, Mr. Colucci. Sarah Mirsky.
Good evening, Madam Chair and Board. I am Sarah Mirsky, constituent of District 2 for School Board, registered voter, taxpayer, and mom of 2. I came away from the last school board meeting agenda items with more questions than answers, and that theme continues into this school board meeting and agenda items. As I talk about the agenda items that I'm concerned about, I want to say that I do not want the schools or students to lose funding at the federal or state level. I understand that the federal administration and the state administration are at polar opposites of the political spectrum, and there seems to be some confusion. I'm going to refer to G32 and G34 on the agenda item. Every BPS board member is to make decisions for BPS as an independent member and make nonpartisan choices as a board members and listen to what their constituents want. As there seems to be gray area in what laws to craft school board policy around, I certainly hope that BPS, the board, isn't trying to work around current state legislation as particular political opponents have said that they are trying to do. To also make sure the board is adhering to Florida State Statute 1001.41. I have mentioned in previous meetings that each school board member is a fiduciary, and it's about time board members take that role seriously by being more transparent with their constituents. The taxpayers need a lot more transparency in where our money is going. As I said before, I, as well as many others, feel you have broken your corporate fiduciary responsibility by going against state law and being found being out of compliance with the Florida Department of Education. The trust between half of your constituents and the board has been broken. Why do you need, this is on F28 agenda item, why do you need more taxpayer money to hire outside legal counsel when we already have 2 in-house attorneys, is what I'm wondering. I highly recommend doing things to repair the trust. Listen to your attorney when he says something is illegal, and take directives from the Florida Department of Education to not lose funding or have it suspended. Taxpayers of Brevard County need more transparency, starting with not pushing political agendas that the board doesn't have to. On to item G41. I appreciate BPS bringing the wording up to current law. Thank you for revising it before you voted in. I'm very glad that BPS has a process in place to help a student who is in a mental health crisis. Parents were concerned that a principal would have the authority to not tell the parents for 24 hours if their child has been Baker acted. My current understanding is that this is only when DCF would be involved. Thank you for having it reflect the state statute. When a child is in a healthy situation at home, it's always best to involve the parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Carrie?
Carrie Takach.
I'm here to speak on agenda item G32, Board Policy 2260, Non-Discrimination and Access to Equal Education Opportunity. Concerns have arisen with the board's decision to strike out C2. In accordance with Florida statute, the board may establish and maintain a single-gender non-vocational class, extracurricular activity, or school for elementary, middle, or high school students from Policy 2260. Could the board offer clarification to constituents before approving? Thank you.
Thank you. All right, that is going to move us into our consent agenda. We thank you for your willingness to address us in the public comment. Dr. Mullen? Consent?
There are 19 agenda items under this category.
Thank you, Dr. Mullins. Does any board member wish to pull any consent agenda item? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Second. Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. All right, Dr. Mullins, will you please let us know about the items under the action portion of tonight's agenda?
Madam Chair, members of the board, the first item is to hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 5780, Student Rights, Parents' Rights.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 5780, Student Rights, Parents' Rights? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 5780, Students' Rights, Parents' Rights? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Moved by Mr. Susan, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Is there any discussion? What did I say? Ms. Campbell? Sorry. All right. Moved by Mr. Seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Our next item is on procurement solicitations. I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
Next is hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 2260, Non-Discrimination and Access to Equal Educational Opportunity.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 2260, Non-Discrimination and Access to Equal Educational Opportunity? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 2260, Non-Discrimination and Access to Equal Educational Opportunity? Do I hear a motion?
Second.
Moved by Ms. McDougall, seconded by Ms. Jenkins. Is there any discussion? Ms. Campbell.
So this policy and the next one are a couple that I have wrestled with over the last couple of months. Several discussions with Dr. Mullins, with Ms. Londano. I think I've had some with Mr. Gibbs as well, as far as what these policies mean. And I wish I'd been able to wrap my brain around and been able to focus it all into one thought before this week, because it would be something that I could have shared if I'd had it coherently at our December work session or a January workshop. 2260 in particular reflects the non-discrimination statement that this board, a previous board, including one member of the current board, adopted back in 2016. And for whatever reason, the policy that matches it, that marries with it, was not changed at the time. It hasn't been revised since 2014. When I got down to the crux of what was bothering me, I think what it was is that if I had been on the board in 2016, and I wasn't, but if I had been, I would have voted no for the change in the statement. I believe that similar to other school districts, and I haven't pulled all of them, but just doing a quick search, Marion, Escambia, Sewanee, Okaloosa, Pinellas are a few counties that didn't add the language that was added back in 2014 or 2016. And my concern
if there's a policy that I'm going to vote for, words are so important, and they're particularly, for me, I have to be able to own the policy that I'm voting for. And there is the section that bothers me the most is the preamble, or the first sections that describe the purpose of the policy. Now, I want to be clear, because I know that my words tonight and my vote tonight can be misconstrued. And I know this board knows me, and I shared my heart with you a couple weeks ago when I brought up the locker room issue. But I still feel that way. It's still my conviction. I still think what's best for students, including our transgender students in particular, is to not open wide the doors when it comes to restrooms and locker rooms. And I shared those with you guys a couple weeks ago. All this policy doesn't talk about restrooms and locker rooms. I feel like the way that it's worded at the beginning opens the door so that even if, for example, the 11th Circuit case, Adams versus St. Johns County case, that's going to be reheard by the full 11th Circuit this month. And I told you there's no statute right now that requires locker rooms except for, not statute, but the current presidential administration's interpretation of Title IX that requires us to allow transgender students to use locker rooms and restrooms of their choice. I just feel like by having this in policy, then we're locking it in. One of the things that's been consistent in our guidelines in this, for all those things, is our policy, our non-discrimination statement, which again now is going to be solidified into policy. But I want it to be clear. I agree with the statements that discrimination is harmful. That's one of the things that's in there. I actually don't mind the wording of 2266, which is why I will be voting for that one tonight. But I today had one more time just to read through all those and just see, can I put my full weight behind it? And the truth is, I cannot behind 2260 and behind 2260.01, so I'll just do all the discussion on that for myself, from my point of view. I actually had a conversation. I called one of our NAACP leaders yesterday because I wanted to make sure that there was not a miscommunication that, oh, Katie believes that discrimination is okay. That's not true. So I want to talk about what I'm for. I am for all our students having whatever opportunities, education-wise, and for there to be no discrimination when it comes to the kind of classes that they can take, the kind of clubs they can be involved in, and the way that we're treated. This is separate from harassment. I mean, all our harassment policies are spot on, and I, don't have a problem. And no one else tonight has spoken against those either. But like I said, I shared with you guys my heart a couple weeks ago, and I just really feel like it is important for the protection of our transgender students, who I am continuing to hear issues around the locker room issue in particular, with how that's being handled, not how staff is handling it. They're handling it the best they can. Some of them feel very uncomfortable with what they're having to do. And with students, I'm hearing more stories of students who are not comfortable changing. And even though Mr. Susan mentioned a couple weeks ago that we could allow, make sure parents know that their student, if they want to, can have an alternative place to change. The truth is we don't have the facilities to do that. If we have an entire locker room of boys who don't feel comfortable, they don't want to dress out because there's someone who is a biological girl now in their locker room, we don't have the facilities for all those boys to go somewhere else. Not in a timely manner at all. And so those kinds of things, that is a choice by this board. It is a choice that other boards have chosen differently, and I'm not bringing that back up because I want us to change it, but I'm just saying this policy is the thing behind those actions and what we might do with those in the future. And so for that reason, and for that reason alone, I'm going to be voting no on this policy as well as 2260.01. And again, it's mainly because of those preambles, those first parts of the policy, but all of the rest of them, I will be a yes.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Any additional discussion? All right, I have a motion. So all in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
I mean, I'm the name.
Let's do that one more time just so it's clean. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. All opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
And the motion passes 3-2. Next is Dr. Mullins.
Next is to hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 2260.01, anti-harassment and non-discrimination appeal procedures.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 2260.01, anti-harassment and non-discrimination appeal procedures? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 2260.01, anti-harassment and non-discrimination appeal procedures? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Ms. Belford.
Oh, go ahead.
I did just want to chime in and mention that I spoke with someone just today who was considering moving to the area, and one of the questions that they asked me was, what is the policy in your schools on the things that Ms. Campbell was talking about? And I told them, and they said, wow, that really makes me reconsider. And so I just would hope that this board would understand that this topic is, it's very difficult. And, I just wanted to throw that out there because I don't know if you guys have, heard any of that stuff yourself, but that's something that I experienced today. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Delaney. All right. Anyone else who wishes to address Board Policy 2260? Ms. Mursky?
Good evening again, Board. I just wonder, and I know this isn't a question and answer session, but why this issue right now when other counties and other school boards in the area are not bringing this to their boards and changing the policy in that way? I want to know why Brevard County and why half of the constituents in this room and throughout Brevard County aren't being represented in this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mercy. Yes, ma'am.
I honestly have a proposition regarding this. If you guys are comfortable changing into gym clothes in front of everyone here, then I invite you to do so. If you're not comfortable, you have no right to do that to our children. All of the children deserve a safe place, and you're concentrating on one half of the children, not the other. They all deserve a safe place, private place, and I can't even believe it's the discussion.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else who wishes to speak to the policy? Audience, if you would please hold your applause. Anyone else that wishes to speak to the policy? Okay, then I will entertain a motion.
Second.
Moved by Ms. McDougall, seconded by Ms. Jenkins. Is there any is there any discussion?
Yes.
Ms. Jenkins?
Man, it's alarming to me that we're still here today having these conversations. Ms. Campbell, I respect your conviction because you stand by what you say and what you believe, and I believe that that's in your heart. And I said this when we had our board meetup or whatever we called it that day. But one of the things that you said then and you said again today that just I have to be clear about is about it being for the protection of our trans students. And I want to make it clear. I think that's something we should be asking our trans students if the things that you're saying make them feel protected. I just don't believe that they would agree with that. And this topic, this issue, why now? And it's because our trans and LGBTQ students always existed. They will continue to exist. They have a right to exist. That is why. That is why now. Because we are a public education system and we serve every student, regardless of your beliefs. And I brought this up at our meeting that wasn't streamed, but I'm going to bring it up again. We had students displaying hate against their LGBTQ peers in the hallways of our schools just 2 weeks ago. And we are adults sitting on a dais supporting that by the things that we say. and by clapping in this room today. It's a disgrace.
Ms. Campbell?
Ms. Jenkins, I absolutely agree with you that we are to serve every student with excellence as a standard. I do believe that we can serve our transgender students in a positive way. And by the way, I don't believe at all that the comments, I'm not going to speak for the people who came up and spoke, you know, sometimes people get ugly and don't say it the way I would have said it. But the conversation, as far as from my perspective, that even my vote on this in any way supports students mistreating their peers. And when we, okay, I know, but I'm just saying this policy, because we have specific, in fact, we have in the policies that we're going to be voting on down the line in just a minute, anti-harassment bullying, we have those set up. And I believe I can wholeheartedly, with whatever language that's in there, support these policies, because our students all, no matter what their differences are, whether they agree with them, whether they think that they should be out, have access to whatever space of the school they want or not, that they should be treating one another with respect. And that absolutely, I can come, I am full agreement with you. So I don't, the things that you stated, the way you stated, I don't necessarily agree with all of it, but I agree that we need to make sure that's a priority. And I think that this board, regardless of this particular vote, can support that. I mean, there's not a person on this dais, I don't believe, or in this room, who thinks that whatever behavior has been happening to our trans, if they are being bullied, if they are being name called, if they're being shoved. I've had an email of someone who was shoved, or somebody saying something to them, and they never could find out who it was. That was at one of my schools. You know, those kinds of things our administrators need to handle, and they are handling, and they need to come forward, people who have those things happening to come forward. But again, I thank you for the acknowledgement. I appreciate that. But I do think that this particular policy, whether it's voted or not voted, does not, none of that would condone, or any action by this board would condone behavior like that.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Mr. Gibbs, can I ask you a couple of questions just to kind of clarify some of the understanding by the audience? So it was mentioned, why are we changing this language at this point in time? Are we changing any language in this policy with regard to the section that Ms. Campbell expressed concern? The first paragraph with regard to clarifying those types of discrimination that are prohibited.
The first section does not have many changes. It looks like they added a few notes as far as the ADA references in section 504.
So we're not changing the definition of sex discrimination in this policy, right? Okay. And the other question that I have for you, does this policy guide the areas that Ms. Campbell expressed concern about, or is our handling of those situations guided by something more powerful than this policy? So Ms. Campbell has expressed concern about locker rooms and restrooms, but does this policy address restrooms or locker rooms, or is the way that the district handles restrooms and locker rooms guided by Title IX, interpretation, DOJ, all of those things?
Policy should govern what policy they're in applying to that. So, you know, DOJ guidance and OCR guidance, because the OCR and the DOJ are going to come in and enforce federal law and regulations against the district. So all of the policy changes and the policy changes Neola makes and recommends you adopt are based on the federal guidance.
So Ms. Campbell mentioned that the Adams case is being reheard by the 11th.
Right.
If decision on that case changes, are we required to change our policy?
Yes, I would recommend they change policy to comply with where the law is in Florida. The 11th Circuit will be binding on Florida unless the Supreme Court changes it. So whatever the outcome of that, and I hoped it would have been out already, and we've already had two opinions that have been pulled back. So we are where we are right now with the courts, and when that changes, this may very well be coming back to the district.
So this is, I guess the point that I'm trying to get to is our policy has to be reflective of the legal guidance, not your legal guidance. I mean, although you give us opinion and hopefully we listen to you.
It's based on existing legal guidance out there that's available, and when it changes, like from cases and the 11th Circuit Court case comes down, if it requires amendment, we'll bring it back forward as an amendment.
Okay, thank you. And Ms. Campbell, I wasn't asking those questions to like disagree with you. I just want for our audience to understand what the actual changes are that we're making, the impact it has, because I've heard numerous times that you know, policy is what is causing the decisions, the accommodations that we're putting in place. And I just think it's important to understand that while this policy guides, it really is that legal guidance out there. So I apologize, board, for getting us down that tangent. I think it's important to understand the nuances. All right, I have a motion and a second. If there isn't any further discussion, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. Motion passes 3-2. All right, Dr. Mullins.
Next is hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 2266, non-discrimination on the basis of sex.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 2266, non-discrimination on the basis of sex? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 2266, non-discrimination on the basis of sex? Ms. Marsky.
Good evening, Board. My point with the non-discrimination on the basis of sex is that, discrimination goes both ways. My children have been bullied on school property for their faith and their political points of views, just as other people who have different faiths and different points of view. It has to stop on both sides. I agree, both sides. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Marsky. Anyone else that wishes to speak to that policy? All right, then I will entertain a motion.
Second.
Moved by Ms. McDougall, seconded by Ms. Jenkins. Is there any discussion?
Just briefly.
Ms. Campbell?
We've had some, I think, misunderstandings and communications on this policy, and as we bring it up, I think there was some questions about athletics, and I think that was settled by staff, but I think it got settled through email instead of through public, or through what we've said in the board meeting. But our district will abides and will continue to abide by FHSAA guidelines, because those guidelines which follow Florida statute, including the one that was passed last session about fairness in women's sports. We follow those guidelines because that's what's required to participate in FHSAA, and we will continue to do that. I actually don't see this policy as being about that. And honestly, the part in here, even though it includes some of the language that I'm sure with you have a problem with, that makes, for me personally, again, this is just my conscience and what I can vote for, is the statement in number 1A1 that says the requirement not to discriminate in its education program or activity extends to admission, enrollment, and employment. So I'm a yes on this one.
Thank you, Ms. Campbell. Any additional discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
Next is hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 3121, conditions for employment and reemployment of staff.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 3121, conditions for employment and reemployment of staff? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 3121, conditions for employment and reemployment of staff? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
Next is hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 3121.01, criminal background and employment history checks.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 3121.01, criminal background and employment history checks? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 3121.01, criminal background and employment history checks? Okay. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
Next is to hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 3590, Personnel File.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 3590, Personnel File? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 3590, Personnel File? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Ms. McDougall, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
Next is to hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 5517, Anti-Harassment.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 5517, Anti-Harassment? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 5517, Anti-Harassment? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
Next is hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 5517.01, Bullying and/or Harassment.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 5517.01, Bullying and Harassment? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 5517? Ms. Mursky?
Good evening. I appreciate policies like this. Just want to make it very clear to the board, I don't discriminate against anybody, neither do my children. And the fact that a board member would say that because somebody clapped, I find highly disrespectful and inappropriate. Thank you.
All right. Is there anyone else present who wishes to address Board Policy 5517.01? I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
Next is to hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 5517.03, Dating, Violence, and Abuse.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 5517.03, Dating, Violence, and Abuse? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 5517.03, Dating, Violence, and Abuse? I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Ms. McDougall, seconded, was that Ms. Jenkins? Yes. Seconded by Ms. Jenkins. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
Next is hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 2410, School Health Services, Special Services.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 2410, School Health Services, Special Services? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 2410, School Health Services, Special Services? I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? Ms. Campbell?
I think there was a concern brought up tonight about the statute. I think that was all clarified. Thank you, Ms. Moore, for clarifying our procedures for how we handle the Baker Acts and the parental notification is all in compliance with the law. I just want to be crystal clear. Anybody walk out of this room or watching online thinking that we're not. We are doing that. We have been doing it already. We're going to continue to do it. And one of the things that I encourage people when they look at the policies is make sure to see, I know for us, we see these all the time, there are things that will say things like including and subject to the requirements and exceptions established under, and it'll have Florida statute. And people don't like to follow those all the time, but if our policies have and they're hot links so you can get to them easily, have the statutes referenced, then that means as those statutes, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Gibbs, if the statutes change, but we're referencing those statutes that we're going to, abide by whatever, then as the statutes change, we don't have to update our policy. It gives us some flexibility so that as those statutes change, we're still in compliance, correct?
Right. Yeah, it's a way of getting around having to revise if you cite specific language. If that language changes, then we have to do 3 months of revisions to get it readopted and in compliance. If you just reference the statute and we're complying with the statute, it allows the district to internally make those changes without having to go through revision.
Right. And know some of that we handle by procedure, which can be changed as necessary. And I know that every time we have significant changes that need to happen in our procedures, notice goes out in the leadership team packet and retraining happens as necessary. Hey, the law just changed, and so now we need to do X, Y, Z. And if it requires training, we're going to have this training at such and such a time, sign up. So I just want to be clear, those kinds of things are ways that we build that into our policy to make sure that we're in compliance even if the laws change, unless they change significantly, in which we have to do some of the stuff like we're doing tonight. Thank you.
That was good clarification, Ms. Campbell. Thank you. Any additional discussion? I'll entertain I have a motion. All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
Next is to hold public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 2431.03, concussion and head injuries.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 2431.03, concussion and head injuries? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 2431.03, concussion and head injuries? I'll entertain a motion. Moved by Ms. Jenkins, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
Next is to hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 2800, educational services for students in Department of Juvenile Justice educational programs.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 2800, educational services for students in Department of Juvenile Justice educational programs? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 2800, educational services for students in Department of Juvenile Justice educational programs? Do I hear a motion? Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
Next is to hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 3215, smoking and tobacco-free environment.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 3215, smoking and tobacco-free environment? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 3215, smoking and tobacco-free environment? Do I have a motion? Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
Next is hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 5500, student conduct.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 5500, student conduct? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 5500, student conduct? Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Ms. McDougall, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
Next item is to hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 5610.05, participation in extracurricular activities.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 561005, participation in extracurricular activities? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 5610.05, participation in extracurricular activities? Do I have a motion? Moved by Ms. Campbell, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
And next is to hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 8330, student records.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 8330, student records? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 8330, student records? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved by Ms. Jenkins, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins.
Next is to hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 8452, automated external defibrillators.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 8452, automated external defibrillators? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 8452, automated external defibrillators? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
Moved by Ms. Jenkins, seconded by Ms. McDougall. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
Next is hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 8405, School Safety and Security Threat Assessment Teams.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 8405, School Safety and Security Threat Assessment Teams? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 8405, School Safety and Security Threat Assessment Teams? I'll entertain a motion.
Second.
Moved by Ms. McDougall, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Is there any discussion?
You got it all the way out.
All in favor? Oh, you didn't get it out?
You said second, I got second.
Oh, I heard you, so.
That's all right.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. Dr. Mullins?
The last item is to hold a public hearing and approve the revisions to Board Policy 8407, Safe School Officers.
Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 8407, Safe School Officers? Is there anyone present who wishes to address Board Policy 8407, Safe School Officers? Do I have a motion?
Second.
Moved by Ms. McDougall, seconded by Ms. Campbell. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion passes 5-0. All right.
Need some water?
Huh? I know, right? That was a lot. All righty.
Can I thank the staff for giving us the day off today? No workshop this afternoon.
Yeah. Pleased to not have the workshop. All right. We are, okay. Okay. We are now board member reports and discussion points. Mr. Susan, you asked to add Melbourne High School renaming update and transportation and bus driver collaboration.
Yeah, thank you. So Melbourne High School update. So we were talking about the workshop. Many of you know that there was an application about 17 months ago to rename Melbourne School after an amazing individual named Joseph Acaba, who used to be a teacher there. And he's now currently an astronaut, and he's part of the pool, not on the launch team, but on the pool of astronauts they will pull for the next Artemis program. So it made sense to many, and so Ms. Lopez made the application. Lo and behold, the process showed that we didn't have much support for it, overwhelming support against it. So I reached out to Ms. Lopez and say, Ms. Lopez, to avoid a March meeting, is there any way that you'd like to pull this? And she said, at this time, you know, I'm not going to do that. And I'll tell you the reason why she's been making a push here is that she really would like us to make an effort to support the Hispanic Latino culture down in the Palm Bay, Melbourne area and across the county. And this was her way of saying, you know what, we're going to try it. And many don't understand what Ms. Lopez was pushing for was because back when I was a teacher, I remember the meeting, it was one of the very ones that I actually came, one of the very few ones. They were renaming, they were trying to name Heritage High School. And they were upset because they thought that they were going to rename it after Roberto Clemente. And so, as you know, there's no high schools that are named after individuals right now. So the issue that we had was, well, presidents, of course, but local people. They named the athletic facility after Roberto Clemente, which is appropriate. He was a great baseball player. But she felt like, look, let's make this. That's where a lot of this angst comes from, where we're saying, like, look, there's no support. We're going to create this meeting. Everybody's going to come from around the area. Let's avoid it. So recently I reached out and finally got a hold of Mr. Acaba and talked to him, as I stated before, and said, hey, Mr. Acaba, would you like to, you know what I mean, you know, talk about this and everything else? And he said, hey, nobody reached out to me, but I'll tell you right now, I want to do what's right for the kids. So count me in on a STEM project, but I'm not interested in having this named after me. So with the facts of him not being reached out, not wanting to be the one that is on there, and then also the fact that the overwhelming support, I called Ms. Lopez again, per your discussion, Dr. Mullins, and the staff, you guys said last week, give her a call, let her talk to her. So tonight, she pulled it. She officially sent a text, Mullins was on it, I was on it. She said, please, I will remove it, and I want to look forward to trying to do something for the Hispanic Latino culture in Palm Bay and Melbourne. So I wanted to let you guys know my dedication. I'm working in that area, and part of it is because there's a gentleman in the back that worked during the feed programs that we had during COVID. we have a large Hispanic, Latino population that's moved into my district, so I'm trying to address and just make sure they're all connected. I work with them in Temple Terrace Boys Clubs and some other areas, and Boys and Girls Club, and I think there's a need there, right? So my commitment to Ms. Lopez and the Hispanic Latino community is to connect many of those areas and resources in my district. Also push to work with renaming of buildings or facilities in the future. If that I find in my world that when you have a STEM program with an astronaut, will do a whole lot more than naming a building after somebody. It's just my personal thing. And that, look, that may be a little bit different. Everybody's different, but applying to the kids something that would carry them for generations is something that I think is much more. So I'm going to focus my energy there, but I did tell her that thank you for pulling it. I understand where you're coming from, and if there's an opportunity, it's a committee, not us, that names them, and she had recognized that. So it's not like we can say we want it to be named a new school. And we can't, as a board, we only approve with the committee. We've never really gone against it. So I said, you can work with that committee of a new school when it gets built down south. And she said, great. So I just wanted to kind of give you guys an update on that. That's it. And she texted back, and she has her email on there. So staff's going to reach out and take care of whatever it needs to be. I didn't know if you guys had any questions on that.
Thank you, Mr. Susan, for your follow-up on that.
Yep. Okay. There is one before I got to the transportation issue. I just wanted to say I met with Elevate Brevard today real quick, and it is focused on cocoa right now, and I would love to just hand that to you. They asked me to talk about the career and technical stuff that they've been seeing on the Space Coast Daily, but the thing is that Elevate Brevard is like, it is made up of all the people. It was so crazy. So Elevate Brevard is an organization that is trying to work on pipelining students in the Cocoa area into college, career and technical programs, and all of the barriers that exist in between, right? So look, I'm in. I'm just going to talk about the trades and everything else. Then I saw the lineup of individuals that are actually there. Bob Barnes, who started the Children's Hunger Project, a good friend from back in the day, that when that was happening, I was in supportive of him. Harry Jones, who I worked on the CPT program with at the Economic Development Council. There was just, and then Mr. Maggiani from the CTE program at Eastern Florida State. He runs the trades programs for all states. So they have put together like an amazing group of people. And I'll pass it off to you because that's your district. That's respectful. And if you need my help in any way, please do. But literally, I've never seen a dream team put together to support Cocoa schools like that in my life. Like, they're going to do something there that is spectacular. I just want to kind of give you a note. They brought up one thing that really caught me is the FAFSA that the kids have to fill out, right? I had to go through that. I had to provide tax information for my daughter and all this stuff. There's a bill in the legislature right now to make that a requirement for schools to have to do, okay? That would be a freaking nightmare. Because I'll tell you this much, if you tie a kid's graduation to having to fill out an application and they have difficulty getting a hold of their parents, it's one more barrier that's going to cause work for us. But it's a good idea, just not that route. So they're working with community groups to get the FAFSAs filled out and coordinating with the schools. So for us, if we hear that, resoundingly needs to be, from my opinion, and you guys can take what you want, our schools can't take any more, but we would love to work with community partners to accomplish those goals. Does that make sense? Okay. I'm just sorry about the side, Miss Belford.
You're fine.
Did more people sign up to talk?
We have not done our non-agenda speakers yet.
So were they talking about the transportation issue?
Yeah, I have 4 that are talking about, it says bus driver.
So it's not an
transportation.
agenda item if I put it on a board discussion? It has to
Right.
be on-
It's only, the agenda items are the ones we're taking action on.
Okay. All right. So I sat at Manatee and met with many of the individuals that you're sitting inside this room. And you guys are absolutely amazing. You are our champions, and you are the first and last thing in Brevard Public Schools that our children see. They have over 150 individuals that are transported every day on their buses. Many of you guys are entrusted with our children on your buses, and my wife doesn't even entrust me with the 5 children in our SUV. So I wanted to say you are absolutely amazing. Dr. Mullins and I sat down today for close to 2 hours, and all of the issues that you guys had brought up, we worked through, and he has staff working on each one of them to give back an answer as to is there a possibility of working on them or not. And I want to tell you, Dr. Mullins' commitment to you was absolutely amazing. And our school board will tell you that the commitment to you is they care about you guys also. I wanted to say that there's an individual back there, I wanted to give him credit, and I'm sorry about taking up this for a second, but we had a feed program for the COVID, and we had a bunch of students that wouldn't come out of the houses in my O'Galley area because they didn't speak English. And I am a large white man knocking on doors, okay? And it just was not getting the people to come out. And I called up our food and nutrition guys, and I said, guys, it's just not working. I know the kids are in there. We have their addresses, but they're not coming out. And this gentleman and his wife volunteered their time to come down, run the food, and to get out and speak Spanish to all of the children so they'd start coming out. We literally went from one location having 20 to 190 the next day because they knew that that was the truth. And there's stories like that that are coming out. There was another bus driver that we were speaking to, and he was talking about how this parent came running up. Now listen to me. Our parents and our kids are absolutely crazy sometimes, right? We all know that. My kids are crazy. The kids you have on your bus, I couldn't even imagine, right? This driver was driving, and all of a sudden a parent swung the door open and said, get the kid off the bus. He said, no ma'am, no ma'am, and said, and forced the person off the bus and said, if you want this child, the kid was like hiding in the back, we got to drive back to the school. So they drove all the way back to the school, and that bus driver refused at that point, let that child go, and brought him back and dropped him off at the school. And that's a huge deal, because what you face every day, not many people understand or see. So I know you guys are going to be coming up and speaking. I'm going to wait afterwards and sit with you guys and tell you everything that Dr. Mullins and I worked out. There's also some of the items that we can't speak on. We can't speak on raises because it's not in front of us on an agenda item. There's a couple other things. But I will sit with you afterwards, and I wanted to say, bottom of my heart, thank you for everything that you're doing, and we want to listen to you, and maybe there'll be some discussion you guys speak. What's that?
Paul will sit next to you.
Yeah, Mr. Gibbs will join you, Mr. Susan.
I followed the law.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to talk about
So
that.
far, absolutely. I just want to make sure that we're covered. And for those of you who are unaware, it's because we are in the midst of bargaining, and so there are things that the board should not be discussing that could create some issues. So we just want to make sure that Mr. Susan has good, clear guidance on what can and cannot be discussed there. Ms. Campbell, I think you said you had a few things, and then Ms. McDougall, you had one?
I've got 3 quick reports back. I don't often report on SIAC, but we have some really exciting things going on I wanted to share with you that some you may have seen in the emails, but some you may have not. Over the last
Ms.
couple
Campbell,
years...
can I
Yes.
interrupt you? Can you explain to the viewing public and the
SIAC.
audience what SIAC is, please?
Yeah, you know what? We get all our initials. It's like the Army, you know. It's the Superintendent's Insurance Advisory Committee, and it is made up of employees, all employees now, from all the different employee groups. We've got teachers, we have our support staff, we have our non-bargaining administration, we have someone from the benefits department. These are all the voting members, and we have some of us who are joining us who are considered staff. We also have a retiree representative on there because many of them are also on our insurance plan, and so they all get a say. And over the last couple of years, one of the things that this employee group who is on the, is chosen to be on this advisory committee has really pushed is we really want to see, what can we do to encourage our employees to be healthy, to encourage them to take the next step. And this, before I got on SIAC, it was decided several years ago to make the biometric screening and the health questionnaire that you do online kind of the gateway to lower deductibles. And so, but this committee says it's time to push it
to the next level and say, okay, if you want whatever that's going to be in the future, we really want to see it be, it's got to be more than just the bare minimum. We want people to go to that annual checkup because that's where a lot of these things are caught. You have those conversations with your doctor, and maybe we can avoid some of those high cost issues by catching them earlier, getting some just making that contact with the doctor. And so it's just some really good conversations that are going on. And so some of that, you know, we'll have to go to bargaining and get into the future. But I'm really excited about the way SIAC is going in that direction, and, you know, TBA, what it's all going to look like. But another thing that we have had several conversations about in the last few meetings is a program called Motivate Me. It is Cigna's program, but they're working with us, and especially SIAC was able to have input on providing opportunities for employees to earn gift card incentives for doing things like participating in health coaching, for things like getting your preventive care screenings like colonoscopies and things if you're of the right age. They also we had to remind, hey, we have some employees that aren't old enough to do those things yet. They had, you know, some other opportunities. And so that's something that's going to be rolling out starting on Monday, I believe. And so for all our employees, you can actually go to your Cigna page. And if you're a female, there's one right now, but the only thing that we've had in it so far is if you get pregnant and you go through the program, you can get $150, but not all of us are up for that. So now there will be more, and all the details of it will be on the Cigna My Cigna page for all our employees who participate in the insurance program. So go check it out. We just really want to focus on what we can do to get our employees healthy and get them making some right decisions. It's good for them. It's good for the plan that they pay into, so it's good for them doubly. And then also communications, in addition to the things that have been going out, communications from Mississippi that I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we have access to now, all our employees have access to, is the call center. It was set up, we've had things like this before during open enrollment period, but now continuing throughout the year from 9 a.m. in the morning till 9 p.m. at night, our employees have access to the call center where they can get their questions answered regarding all the different benefit programs. And Dr. Athedi, if I'm correct, it's not just health insurance, it's all of our benefits package, correct? And so it's just really great to have that resource, because sometimes you have a question and it's during the school day and you're in the middle of a class or whatever, or sometimes you have a question at 7:30 at night. You're like, oh, I can't wait till the morning. You got to write an email. No, you have access until 9 o'clock at night to get those questions answered, and they'll steer you in the right direction. So that's been a really good benefit, that continuing, just make sure that you guys are aware, that our employees are aware, and that number will be, I think you can find it on the benefits page of our district website. Want to give you an update on FSBA Day in the legislature. Legislative session is moving quickly, and Danielle Thomas is sending us updates regularly, so make sure you're following those. A couple of, I was just going back and looking at our legislative agenda that we decided on. It seems like it was forever ago. I want to say it was August or September. Maybe it wasn't that late, but it seems like it was forever. And I heard a couple of, things moving around about some of these things, but a couple of just for your awareness that are moving. First of all, it's yet to be seen exactly what the budget will look like, in the coming weeks, but it looks like from the governor's proposed budget, the Senate and House side, there's going to be an increase for mental health funding again. And so that's looking positive, and that goes along with our number 5, needing more mental health experts and social workers in schools. So that is a positive that we're making another increase to that funding. Looks like that's going to go through. I would just encourage your support. One of the things that I was able to talk about with a few of our representatives and senators was the Firefighter Academy at Palm Bay Magnet High School. It's an amazing program. I know we're already moving on it in one side, but we really need this appropriation to get the funding that we need to fill out the program and get it started. So if you guys would just send a little something, I think that would be helpful for any of our public who are listening. If you think that this firefighter program, and by the way, I just saw not very long ago someone in the community, from the firefighter community, talking about the great need and all the holes that they have. This is a job that our students can walk into and be just so much more prepared to be ready to go into the workforce. So anybody in the community who wants to just shoot a little email to your representative and say, hey, would you please support the appropriation for the firefighter
can't say that word, firefighter academy at Palm Bay Magnet High School. We really want to see that go through so that we can start that program. Dr. Mullins, will it be next school year or will it be the following year? I know it would take some time to get everything up and running. Do you know?
It'll launch this coming school year.
Okay, this coming school year.
This coming school year, correct, Dr. Sullivan? Yep.
Yay! So, all right, so everybody get to your emails, please, and ask for the legislator's support for that appropriation. It'll help us. Then as far as wage compression, that was one of the things we had. I don't know how much you guys have been paying attention, but the Senate President Wilson Simpson made it a part of his challenge on the first day of session, and the Senate budget has since come out supporting that. It looks like the Senate side of the budget is giving a set amount of money, or proposing a set amount of money to raise, along with all the other state employees, all school district employees, go ahead and raise them to $15 an hour ahead of, our minimum wages going up $1 a year until we get to 15. And, but he's saying, let's go ahead and do that now. And so that would be really awesome. And of course, we're creating some wage compression with it, so create some issues. But when we talk about how many employees over the next few years are going to we're going to have that increase to get them to the new minimum wage. Right now, this year, we only had to do it for some substitutes, and but the next year, as it goes to $11 an hour, and $12 an hour, $13. The funding is going to be a challenge. But to be able to go ahead and do that now and get everybody up to 15 to start. Is kind of exciting. So I'm going to look at the positive side of that only for right now. So that looks exciting. And at the house,
I have to jump in, Ms. Campbell.
I know.
Mrs. Campbell and public, there is no state-approved budget as of yet.
I know.
There are only proposals, and committees have not resumed. So
I know. And
I love your optimism, and I share it. But I just
you're bursting my bubble.
I'm channeling my Russ Brune friend over here, like.
I know.
So.
And I know there's some bargaining chips that kind of go along with this. We got a little bit more of an education last week as I got to sit on some things. One of the things I got to sit in, and I'm not going to get too excited about this one either, but I was in the House pre-K through 12 education subcommittee, appropriation subcommittee last week when the budget dropped. And just, when we get to the real budget, it's probably not going to look like either one. It's not. It never is going to look like either the Senate side or the House side. But there's some really good pieces in there. And I again, pulling the positive out of it, the House budget proposes, the governor initiated and the legislature approved a couple years ago the $500 million for the teacher salary allocation to try to get school districts to raise the minimum teacher pay to $47,500. And we were able to get in Brevard up to $46,550. This year, I think we got up to $46,800-ish. Anthony's somewhere in there. 800, okay. We still have a long ways to go to get to 47.5 because last year we were able to do that because they gave an extra 50. The governor proposed 50, the Senate's saying 50, the House budget actually is saying $250 million additional, which could get us, I don't know if it could get us there, but it could get us closer. Not $250 million for Brevard, don't anybody get too excited, but to share across the state. That would get the total for the state up to $800 million. But here's the part that I was really, and I don't know, because the Senate's still saying 50 on that, so there's going to meet, that's some of the bargaining in the middle. But one of the things that was optimistic for me, that I was optimistic about, is in that $250 million additional, it actually said 50% of that to go towards getting people to the 47.5. And the other 50% to be used for veteran teachers. And that's one of the things we've struggled with in the last couple of years because it was 80-20. And so then we end up with situations like we had this year where we had very little to give to our teachers that were over the 46,800. And so moving forward, if we get the funding like that, up until, once we get to 47.5, we can really start moving. But in the meantime, I just thought that was a positive direction to get it to 50-50. We didn't have it in our platform, but it was in the FSBA platform to give us more flexibility, so I thought that was good.
Can I speak to that? Oh,
sure.
I'm not laughing at you, just laughing. I can see Dr. Mullins stressed.
I'm not promising anything. I'm not the legislature.
when you're finished. The problem is, what I've been screaming, is we're going to make $15 an hour as the beginning wage. And they haven't even fixed our true, which you touched on, teacher veterans, which we were promised we would deal with. So I'm all about, hey, let's do great things. But when you've got people in the audience that are making less than $15 an hour as a bus driver,
Yeah.
and they're about to find out that this guy's going to pass it and they're going to make 15, but then they've been working for us for 15 years.
Yeah.
Mullins and I went back and forth about this for 20 minutes, and it's absurd. Like, they need to be able to give us the flexibility to get there, give us the funding, but get there together so that we're all rising all boats together. And I think it's just sad, because it's like, where does that reasoning come from, right?
Yeah, I get it, and I think the compression is going to be an issue for a while.
Because they hand it to them, they say, here you go, look what we did, and they get press releases, and then individuals come to us and they're like, wait a minute, what about us? And they don't have to deal with that, because they don't have an avenue to the state legislators like they do to us. So, and it's unfair, and it's just one of those things that I've been messaging up there, but that thing's running, so it's not.
It's going to be another record year for education funding. Hopefully we'll get as much ability as possible so we can take care of the needs that we have.
And then I was going to say one other thing that you talked about, SIAC. I really appreciate, and I'm sorry, guys, I know I'm talking forever. You guys came to talk, you guys, but one of the reasons I was kind of hesitant with the 300 steps or miles, to be honest with you guys, is that one of the things we could really do is drive our wellness initiatives to where, not just us, but our staff. So we have staff members that don't get colonoscopies. We have a majority of our staff, or many of our staff, that don't go get their biometrics, that don't, you know what I mean? And I'm presenting to the top 60 corporations in the United States in 2 weeks. And the reason that I am is because that is the #1 goal, is to set a schedule in the private sector. They're forcing 2 types. So the first type is, you meet all these goals, you go talk to all these people, get all these checkups, you get this deductible. You go over here and you pay more, because ultimately getting biometrics is one thing. I did that and my numbers were off the charts. I didn't know I wasn't supposed to eat right before I did it. So the thing is that, sorry. Anyways, my wife freaked out about it. But the thing is that there's a lot to that, and it identifies your problems, and then we can fix that prior to it becoming a thing. So I would love to, I'll run a 300 miles in a month if you want me to, okay? But what I would really love to do is engage with the board on engaging our members on best practices, and look at some of those things that we can set metrics for them in the future. The savings on identifying issues prior is astronomical. So that's all. I just wanted to let you guys know. Thank you.
The final report is on Friday last week, we had our Board of Directors meeting for the Florida School Boards Association that I serve for you guys on. And one of the things that we talked about at our last meeting, we voted to withdraw from the National School Board Association because of just the rigmarole they've been putting everybody through and not running very well. We voted on Friday to become a founding member of a new national organization, which will be called COSPA. It stands for, I had to look it up because I forgot the first word, Consortium of State School Boards Associations. There are already 17, I believe, states that have voted to be a part. Or are intended to be a part. They were on this call, and of course now everybody has to go and vote now that we have a name, and submit funding, commit funding to this organization. We also chose Bev Slough, who's from St. Johns County, as our representative to the Transition Steering Committee, which is going to kind of serve as the temporary board of directors to kind of get everything at least until June 2023. And she was the one who was serving on our behalf for NSBA. And so since she had that experience, the board of directors voted to have her represent on that. So we will be a part of COSPA. Website's not up and running, because last time I checked, if I was typing it in correctly, it was still on GoDaddy. So, anyway, but they didn't have any money to start it yet. So maybe they're holding it for them. But anyway, so we are now going to be a part of this new organization, and all the bylaws and all that has to be fleshed out. But it's exciting to kind of see. The goal is to get all the states back together again, and hopefully in a way that can really stick to our goal, which is
not being partisan, but just getting some work done. And by the way, just one of the things, it doesn't necessarily matter Brevard as much, but one of the things that some of our boards in the state were a part of, the CUBE, Dr. Gallen from Miami-Dade, who's just a fantastic dude, amazing vocabulary. Yeah. Anyway, he is going to lead an initiative for this new organization to reach out to not, so that we have that urban school districts, but also we're going to have a rural coalition to really the needs. We kind of fall in between that, so I don't know that we'll benefit from either one because we're kind of one of those in the middle. But anyway, it's exciting. So just want to give you that guys head up.
Lots of great info, Ms. Campbell. Thank you. Ms. McDougall?
I am very remiss not to have mentioned this in the beginning, but this week is National School Counselors Week.
Yes, it is.
And I want to give a shout out to all of our school counselors. They have a very tough job, and I want to make sure we appreciate them. So I'm sorry I didn't do it in the beginning of the day.
Thank you, Ms. McDougall, for reminding us all about that. I know it's been out on our social media and all of that, but we definitely want to express our sincere appreciation to those folks that are, I think they've had, well, everybody's had a rough couple years, but their plates have certainly been full, so. All right, any other board member reports or discussion? Dr. Mullins, do you have anything more to add?
I do. I can't pass up the opportunity just to, Ms. Campbell, that was an outstanding summary of what's going on in Tallahassee, albeit at 98 miles an hour. That was pretty impressive. But I just want to echo optimism, but also caution. Number one, the House of Representatives have released their proposed budget. The Senate has done the same. There are almost 4 weeks of session left. A lot of negotiating back and forth has to happen. Absolutely, the House's proposal to add dollars to address the minimum wage, let's not forget that a voter-required obligation for the entire state of Florida. Our legislators should be planning to increase funding to address what our voters have said is a priority for the state of Florida. So that should be coming forward. What has not been addressed, other than the potential teacher salary increase allocation, is the reality of wage compression. And you, Mr. Susan, certainly eloquently also reiterated the realities of wage compression we have 3 employee groups. Our employees in the Brevard Federation of Teachers Collective Bargaining Unit, our employees in the 1010 IUPAT, I got it, Collective Bargaining Unit, and we also have nearly 1,000 employees in the non-bargaining category, which do not have a collective bargaining organization. And I have said since the moment the minimum teacher salary was established, which is amazing, but it created overnight wage compression for our teachers. As soon as one employee group that makes up a little over half of the employees in the organization create wage compression, there is almost, well, immediately a wage compression challenge with all other employee groups. That was solidified with the minimum hourly rate increase, which is great. But I'm also going to remind and acknowledge that we have nearly 1,000 employees who are in the non-bargaining category, and if we have wage compression problems with 55, 60% of our employees, and then another 30% of our employees, the remaining 10% of employees are inherently wage compressed as well. So there is the challenge ahead to work through these issues and these difficulties. So as optimistic as I want to be as well, I'm not going to put us back to the reality of the challenges we have before us, which is, one, we do not have a budget, And number two, there are some challenges ahead of us to ensure we are caring for every one of our employees. The men and women who have devoted themselves, our most senior employees, through the toughest years that our generation has faced in our profession, and to ensure that they are acknowledged and recognized not only with words, but also with compensation. I would remind our citizens of our great district that you have representatives and you have senators in Tallahassee right now that answer to you. And the more you become active in engaging with our delegates in Tallahassee and letting them know you understand the work they have before them, as well as the impacts it has on us here at home, the more you are assured that they are going to work on all of our behalf. So do not miss the opportunity to write a handwritten letter to your delegates right now and express your position, your perspective on the decisions that they have ahead of them in these final weeks of session, because it will be a giant education year. Good, bad, or otherwise. They will decide, and we will have the responsibility to take it from there. So, sorry, but I had to bring this, I had to challenge and charge all of us. We have the responsibility to ensure that we're doing our part to ensure that our representation in our government is answering to the people. Second, I have to echo your acknowledgement of our Superintendent's Insurance Advisory Committee. And I wasn't going to do a superintendent's report on this, but you opened the door, Ms. Campbell, so we can't undervalue the work of SIAC and the men and women who manage and work in our health insurance plan. It is the second largest expenditure of this district. This district has approximately $70 million of health care expenditures a year. That's the second largest expenditure, only to salaries. The work of SIAC over the last many years to be able to provide at least employees by choice a no premium increase for going on 8 years is nothing short of remarkable. That is blood, sweat, and tears kind of hard work, because you go ask any other folks out there if they've experienced health plan premiums, a health plan premium stable option for that long of a time. But I also got to do a shout out to this board, because you've made the hard and difficult and responsible decisions to invest in our health care plan, our self-insured health care plan. This board has contributed over $10 million recurring dollars in the last 2 years to increase revenue to offset increased expenses. In addition, this board has contributed over $12 million one-time dollars to the health plan to address fund balance issues. So well over $23 million just in the last 2 years to provide a health care plan for our employees that we all share. We all pay in, we all utilize, and the choices we make to manage our health and make proactive choices contributes to not only our personal health, but the fiscal health of our plan over the long term. So thanks for that opportunity. And the last thing I just feel compelled to clarify, there was a comment earlier this evening that referenced the state's withholding 1/12 of board members' salaries due to last semester's mask conflict, I'll say. That has since been restored to our budget. It was withheld once for 1 month, and it was restored the following month. So I just want to clarify that for the community, for our viewing public, that the DOE did restore that funding, not only for Brevard, but for all districts that were in that situation. Thank you, Madam Chair, for indulging my comments.
Great things are happening. And then Dr. Mullins is like, no, so I like your version better. I'm just gonna say.
Katie left out all of the bad things.
That's why I like
And,
it. That's why I like it.
yeah, so, thank you both for those updates. Thank you all for those updates. We appreciate it. All right, we are now going to hear our remaining speakers who have been incredibly patient, but have signed up to comment on our non-agenda items. Each speaker is limited to 1 minute. We have a clock in front of me to help you keep track of your time. When your time is over, you will be asked to stop and allow the next speaker his or her turn. We'll hear from the speakers in the order in which they signed up, including those who may be waiting outside, but I'm pretty sure we don't have anyone outside this evening. As stated earlier, reasonable decorum is expected at all times, and your statement should be directed to the board chair. Should audience participation interfere with speakers being heard or hearing me, I'll be forced to clear the room. When I call your name, please line up along the east wall of the boardroom to facilitate the smooth transition of speakers. We'll begin with our first 3 speakers that were originally on our agenda list: Deborah Schmidt, Teresa Thompson, and then Mark Rainey. Deborah, if you could approach the microphone, and Teresa and Mark, if you all could be on the wall for me, that would be great.
Thank you. Deborah Schmidt. I happen to be one of our bus drivers. I'm in my 15th year of bus driving now. And I do happen to say that I do love the kids that I drive in my bus, and I have a good relationship with them. I would hope that you would take that into consideration. I know we're not talking money right now.
You can, but we can't.
But I just want to say that because of the type of things that we do, we carry those kids around. We go to the different places. We build relationships with them. We love them and take care of them. And the way that we take care of them, greeting them the first thing in the morning, making sure that their day is starting on a good note, that they get to school and they have a good day. We usher them off the buses lovingly and wish them well every day so that they have the best start possible at our end.
Thank you, Deborah. We appreciate you joining us this evening, as well as your service to our kiddos.
Thank you.
Teresa?
Hi. I've been driving a bus for 23 years for Brevard County. And I get the feeling you guys, because you decide our fate, really don't have an idea of what's involved when we drive these kids. I just want to give you a brief overview. You all drive cars. You're out on the traffic. You're in the roads every day, so you see how bad traffic is. Imagine having 50 or 60 kids with you. 50 or 60 kids come through and are in this room. You got to corral them all on a vehicle that's 40 feet long, 10 feet wide, mirror to mirror, and try to keep some sort of order. While you're looking at the road, you also have to see what's going on behind you with the kids. And you have to deal with not only traffic, but you got parents, teachers, school administrators, trash trucks, golf carts, people walking, jogging, dogs, and you've got to juggle all that in addition to keeping these kids safe.
Thank you, Teresa. We appreciate you joining us and appreciate your service. As Mark is approaching, the next speaker will be Tom Yates, followed by Katie Delaney, Sarah Mursky.
So before my minutes start, should have been free, but before the minutes starts, bus drivers, will raise your hand. This is a representative sample. There was a couple of hundred that wanted to come, but they're still driving when your board's meeting. So please, this is a representation. It's not the only ones that have an interest in it.
We understand, Mr. Rainey. Thank you.
1 minute timing. At the last board meeting, I urged the board to impress on the administrative negotiating team to do so with the root cause in mind. That being that the starting pay is not attracting the candidates. Now, you can have compression problems all you want, but you're only going to be dealing with starting pay if you keep this up, okay? Because there isn't going to be any compression problem. Many of the drivers have stepped up to help during the trying times. They're covering extra routes. They're doing all the things that you've asked for them. However, no new drivers that fill the positions, they've lost their faith. They're completely exhausted now after 3 or 4 months of hard work in this. So you have an opportunity. The drivers are going to reject the 10-10 contract. It may still pass because of the other members, but the drivers are voting no on the 10-10 contract along with the IAs. We're asking the board to reject the contract, send it back for negotiations on reoccurring pay. I know you started the negotiations with we have no money and there is no reoccurring pay.
Thank you, Mr. Rainey. We appreciate you joining us this evening. Tom Yates.
Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to speak. Talking about the TLC program and the stress and all that people face, these bus drivers face a lot of stress every day. And I tell you what, today's the first day in about 2.5 weeks I haven't had to make extra runs. And when I'm transporting almost 200 students a day, I have to make sure the bus is correct, everything is safe, and everything is operational, and have to maintain the discipline of the kids within the bus. But I can tell you right now, I take on all of that responsibility. All of that pressure is on me to make sure that I do my job. I can go to McDonald's and all I have to worry about is the French fries, if I cook them too long or not long enough, and make over $14 an hour. I can go to Wawa and dump trash, not worry about anything, and make $15 an hour. So I hope you guys will reconsider.
Thank
your
you,
proposal.
Tom.
I just want to say this is why your public policy change is so wrong. Ms. Belford, each meeting you start by warning the audience of the consequences of breaking the decorum rules of this meeting. Then a certain board member is continuously allowed to defame parents and stakeholders who have differing views on various topics. The public is expected to keep a level of decorum. I would request that the board would also abide by those same rules of decorum. Discrimination for any reason is abhorrent, and no child should feel unsafe in school. In response to Dr. Mullen's challenge, there is a large group of parents who are heading to the Capitol shortly. Unfortunately, if things go the way it is rumored, Brevard will not benefit from those extra funds because of some of the members on this board who decided to vote in opposition of the governor's executive order, which is now state law. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mursky. After Ms. Mursky is Karen Colby and then Christopher Macklin.
Good evening. I will actually be one of the members going to Tallahassee and speaking specifically to my legislators about this specific school board and my issues with them. I want to address the Youth Truth Survey. My understanding is that it's an anonymous survey. However, my husband and I were offended that questions of a sexual nature were asked to our minor child. Our child felt really uncomfortable, and my husband and I were completely unaware that this type of survey was being taken, and the nature of the questions were highly inappropriate to our family's morals, values, and faith. I asked that parents be made aware of the survey, that that nature or the questions and parents are able to opt out of this survey. My husband and I are highly offended over the inappropriateness of this survey. The medical form that has gone out district-wide is very confusing. It's been very confusing to parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mursky. Is Karen Colby here tonight? Ms. Mursky, if you would please send me the specific questions that you're concerned about on that survey, if you wouldn't mind, so we can look into it. Dr. Sullivan? Ms. Mursky, if you would get with Dr. Sullivan, that would be great. Mr. Macklin?
Mid-South Driver. We all believe in the mission for the driving school bus. We're all loyal and dedicated. Since the lack of drivers, they're all overloaded doing 2 and 3 routes. We all chip in our own way. I do my route, fuel buses at lunch, and do every field trip I can. And what I end up with is $21,000 a year on my W-2. That's doing almost 9 hours a day. That's shameful, embarrassing. We're third lowest from the bottom in the state in pay. There's no reason for that. It's one of the richer counties. We're $3 below the average Florida bus driver across the board. Something has to be done. We're running a skeleton crew. Our bosses are driving buses.
Thank you, Mr. Macklin. We appreciate you and your service. All right. The board wishes to thank this evening's speakers. Your willingness to speak with the board is appreciated, and certainly we appreciate the service of all of our bus drivers. And Mr. Susan, you got
Before you
something else?
gavel, yeah, I just, I'm going to take whatever they wanted to say at the end and email it to you guys in issues. That would be appropriate. And then I would love it for the next meeting discussion around if a board member puts an agenda item on, letting the individuals that speak onto that agenda item get their 3 minutes. And I'll just be honest with you, part of that reason is because, you know, these are our employees. And I really wanted to hear the 3 minutes from them. I didn't know that rule. So I'll just like to talk to you guys about it at the next board meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone have anything else? All right, hearing no further business, this meeting is now adjourned. Have a great night.
What needs to happen is the federal Senate needs to pass a bill. There are already 51 co-sponsors of this bill to extend the ratification date for the Equal Rights Amendment and put it in the Constitution. It's already passed the House of Representatives a year ago. I don't understand why it's not being brought up. I can't find an answer to that. So that's my plea, that we talk about this issue more. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to say so. Thank you.
Thank you. I have no other cards. All right. I can find my agenda with all these papers, Commissioner Tobias. All right. Now, on to board reports. I almost called you Commissioner, Mr. Bate.
No,
County Manager?
I don't have any report. No report.
Abigail?
No report.
Commissioner Pritchett? Commissioner Lober?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Tobias?
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is one more thing coming up at the next meeting. First of all, I want to thank Commissioner Smith for taking a deep dive into the issue of towing rates, especially since he's looking out for ratepayers. One of the major concerns being raised is one of enforcing penalties as determined against tow companies when they are violating the law. There are Florida statutes out there. I'm going to ask for a couple things. Hopefully this board will get together and provide a letter or a memo letting our state attorney and our sheriff know that we take this stuff extremely seriously. And here's the